Our next session is going to be moderated by Ms. Virginia Flo. Virginia has been at Lutherans for Life longer than I have.
Yes.
and she's thinking, I'm going to be around longer than he is. Joined Lutherans for Life in September 2013 and currently resides in Eagan, Minnesota, which is the Twin Cities area, which I believe has been Virginia's home for her entire life. Although she will tell you there was a time when she was a bit of a globetrotter, a jet setter, so you'll have to ask her about that. Virginia grew up in a family, and it was on a farm, right? On a family that welcomed foster children who found a safe home with them in the country. She has authored a Christian novel capturing some of those foster care experiences. Virginia has served as an LFL chapter president. She's also served as a regional director and is now working as our director of volunteer relations, helping equip Lutherans across the United States to be gospel-motivated voices for life. And Virginia is convening a panel discussion on how to be active in your community regarding the sanctity of life. So I'll leave to Virginia to introduce her panelists, but let's welcome them to the stage.
Thank you. We have one last change. So if you're looking in your book, we had Pastor Kahle come from Olathe, and unfortunately he got sick today. So pastors have to be sick or they wouldn't miss something like this, so we trust that he's sick. So Mike Albers, our Missouri Federation president and life team leader in St. Louis, is sitting in for him. So he'll have probably the best answers because he hasn't had time to think about it. So we appreciate it. So let's go around the table and let them introduce themselves. Since I started your introduction, Mike, you might as well finish.
Okay. I am a Lutheran school teacher, Lutheran students teacher. I taught for 45 years in secondary education, math, and coaching. I still sub and tutor and help with the golf teams at Lutheran High School South in St. Louis. My wife, Diane, who you know, she was the president of Missouri for 30 years, and she had to leave that position to take her current position, and so she tapped me on the shoulder, and here I am with that. As far as the life team, we started that maybe 10 years ago, and there were 3 of us that turned into more. A lady took over. She was very good. She had to leave our church, and so it fell back to one of us, and I took that over also.
Which church is it?
Christ Memorial in St. Louis in South County.
Okay.
So I'm Liz Cook. I'm the leader here for Lutherans for Life for our chapter. Really how it started is we did Value Them Both. Deb grabbed me because she's the church receptionist here. Said, "Hey, I've heard you have information on project management." I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And that's how it happened. So I was her project manager on the Value Them Both. And what happened is we realized we had at least 25 members who were very pro-life. So I said, "Hey, we need to start a Lutherans for Life team," and that's how it started. And I've been a member for Lutherans for Life since 2017. So.
This on? Yes. Okay. I'm Roni Grad, and I am a retired physician. I practice pediatric pulmonary medicine, and so I have experience with both beginning and probably more experience with end of life. Sadly, with children and young adults. I attend Catalina Lutheran Church in Tucson, Arizona. I recently became commissioned as a deacon there, and my focus.
Is it on, Liz?
Okay. Is it on now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Recently commissioned as a deacon there with a focus on sanctity of life. Our life team started officially in 2018, but we started doing it in 2017. Shortly after I retired, pastor called me into his office, gave me a stack of papers from Lutherans for Life, and he said, "Here, have at it." So, and I was very happy to do it because I've had experience with abortion as a medical student and with preventing abortion as a pediatric resident. So I'm very much pro-life since that time. I wear a lot of life hats, so I'm on LFL. I sit on the board. I'm secretary of the board. I sit on a couple of committees, and I help develop position statements. We also have our academic journal, Verba Vitae. I've been on the committee to help put that together. I also serve our English district of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod as district life coordinator, and I serve on the board of a pregnancy care center outside of Tucson. So I think that's enough about me.
Thank you. I'm Michele Hartshorn, and I'm the Assistant Director of Volunteer Relations for Lutherans for Life. I've been here for almost a year. Coming up in November will be a year. And I just want to thank all of you that are here today for your gospel-molded voices for life. So thank you all. Prior to coming to LFL, I was the center administrator at our local pregnancy center in Burnsville, Minnesota. So saw, all the talk about, and especially in our state of Minnesota, when now with it, abortion is up until birth. So there's a lot, and prayer, is so important for us here. Before that, I also served, I was at the pregnancy center for 8 years, and before that, I was 8 years as a communication coordinator at my church, which is Messiah Lutheran and LCMS in Lakeville, Minnesota, where my husband and I, my husband Jim, and we have 2 boys, Patrick and Nicholas, 25 and 27, and we've been members of our church for 20 years. And our life team at Messiah is brand new. We met with Pastor in May, and then we had to go through church council, get all the blessings throughout our church and the mission committee, and in August, now we are an official in-training life team.
Good morning. I guess it's afternoon, isn't it? Can you guys hear me? Is that coming through okay? I'm Deb Steiner, and I graduated from Concordia Seminary in Seward, Nebraska, and moved eventually to Canada. So my teaching career got cut short, but went a different direction, and then came back here and have been a member here for 40 years now, as of next year. And so we're glad to have you here with us. And it's been such a blessing to be the church secretary here. And it's combined well with being able to service our congregation here with life projects and things like that. I helped co-found the life team here, and we've been in existence now for 2 years as of this fall, and happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we wanted to bring a variety of people here today, those that are brand new, just in training, which is what we're doing at Messiah Lutheran in Lakeville, Minnesota, and then those that have been around for a little while longer. Life teams are newer than life chapters. Life chapters have been around since the beginning of Lutherans for Life. So we have life chapters out there that have been serving for 30, 35 years, and there are some that are aging out and things of that sort. So we've learned a lesson over the years that one of the things that's really important when you have a life team in your congregation or you have a life chapter is that we have a good succession program. So we're always bringing people in to train them to be able to take over when someone needs to step aside. So you don't get it back if you're not ready, but you were ready, so that didn't matter in that case. So we're going to start with some questions here. We're going to have random questions. I'll ask somebody to start. They didn't like hearing that, I suppose, but and we're going to start with Liz to start with, because Liz is and I think you already have the answer, and that is,
What's the
what
question?
is one of the most rewarding project your group has initiated?
Wow, I got to look at Deb for that one. All of them, I want to say. I think the big thing for me, though, personally, is just reaching out to the pregnancy centers. So You know, I mean, just because they need so much desperate support, right? Wipes, diapers, anything. 2 months ago, they called. They needed a double stroller because somebody was having twins, right? And I selfishly thought, okay, should I just buy the stroller myself? And I thought, no, don't be like that. Tell your group. And then, of course, our group just exploded, right? So we get really excited about stuff like that. So.
Yeah, because our mission at Lutherans for Life is to equip Lutherans and their neighbors to be gospel-motivated voices for life. So if you do it all yourself, you're not engaging the
I know,
congregation.
but I was selfish.
Yeah, well, okay.
I
So the
should-
point
maybe
is
I should
to
explain
use
that,
these as
though.
educational. So you did the right thing.
Yeah,
You
but I
engaged
should
others,
explain.
right?
So I personally am the unplanned pregnancy. So I'm the oldest of 3 kids. My mom's from Brazil. My dad was an American. My mom went on a second date with my dad in Brazil because he was stationed there. He worked for Raytheon at the time. She came up pregnant at 21. My dad was 24 at the time. She didn't speak English. He didn't speak Portuguese. She was extremely scared at the time. And so for me, being the unplanned pregnancy, right, that's a whole mission for me. I really want to reach out to those girls that are, you know,
Right.
expecting and, you know, just didn't think about it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to share a project that was rewarding to you in your group? Okay, Deb?
Sure. And again, our Hope Life teams had a very unique project. You might not all have that opportunity in your area, but you might find something more unique than what we have here, too. It's Alexandra's House. It's a one-of-a-kind baby hospice and infant loss center. And what was so nice about that is that group, and Gretchen Holman, who also did our music, she was very instrumental in helping with this, too. She took the lead on this. But I think it brought our whole congregation together. They needed a lot of maintenance on a beautiful older building down in, I don't know, I guess you call that Westport area. So our Men of Hope went down there for about, I think, 3 separate times so far doing maintenance on the whole building for them. They were so appreciative. Then we also got our ladies involved in the congregation, and they made little baby Afghans. They usually would make 2 of them, one for the family member to keep that lost their little loved one, and the other one to bury them in the casket with. And then we also made some of the gowns for that, and sometimes baby hats. So that involved both men and women, and for those people who couldn't do that, they gave funds. And so in every way, shape, or form, our church was able to come together and really provide for a special ministry here in our area. I think just one other one I'd like to sort of mention is our trunk or treat was just something for us as a group, brought us all together as a team, because we all got these little, you know, the little babies out there, the little 10-week-old, or is it 12-week-old, put them in baby socks, gave also a little life certificate instead of birth certificate, and then the kids, as they went through, would pick, they chose between, like, we had like 250 of them all decked out in Gretchen's back van, and it looked like a little baby nurse, yeah. And so they went and picked those up, and then they got their life certificate, and they were able to name their baby. And so many parents walked through that and just were so appreciative. And it just, all of our team was standing around, and we were all, you know, giving it out or talking to the kids, and I think it was just a nice team building for us.
Okay. Dr. Grad, do you have one you'd like to share?
So we partner with Family First, which is a pregnancy care center. It's not a medical center, so they don't do the ultrasounds. It's kind of in a small town. But we partner with them. My wife and I sit on the board. And I volunteer at story time. I tell stories to children on Wednesday mornings. And that's been very rewarding. About 10 of our congregation members, even a few that are not on the life team per se, are there volunteering as well, which is really wonderful. Every year during Advent, actually before Advent, we put it up. We have a giving tree. It's like the angel tree, where you can take an ornament and then buy something for a child whose parent is in prison. So we do it for some of our needy families at the Pregnancy Care Center. The other thing is we've just started, in terms of equipping to be gospel-motivated voices for life, we've started an end-of-life series at the congregation as well. And we're doing, it happens every few months. We are so busy as a congregation doing so many things, it's hard to sometimes get things on the schedule. Yeah. But we are doing an end-of-life series too, and helping people prepare for that. So I think that's going to turn out to be very rewarding.
So Mr. Albers would like to share something? Mr. Albers.
Yeah, yeah, a couple things. We have hosted Monarch Jewelry. I don't know if you're aware of that. They repurpose old jewelry and make some really neat stuff. They raise money for Crisis Aid International, if you're familiar with that organization. But in our area, it's for it's to get women out of trafficking situations. And that's what that money is raised for. Our church hosts them twice a year, and we've had some really big, huge amounts of money raised. The other thing which we stopped doing in COVID was visiting one of the nursing homes in the area that is a Medicare home. Very poor people are there, very nice people. We would go and sing, and depending on the time of the year, we'd offer some kind of, like Valentine's Day, we'd have the Sunday school kids make cards, Easter, Christmas. And just recently, it didn't go over very well, but it's going to happen in the future. We had a senior citizens trivia day. If you've ever been to trivia events where the questions are obscure, not trivia, how many of you know Taylor Swift's middle name?
Don't want to.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. They were multiple choice questions. All they had to do is find the right answer, matching, so we're going to keep doing that. The gal that became our president, our leader, made sure we focused on more than just abortion. So we picked a whole bunch of other different things to focus on, and that's where these are coming from.
Thank you. That's a good point, because one of the emphasis that we tell in our life team training is that we want our life teams to be multifaceted, which means you don't fix on just one life issue. We have many. And if you, out on our table out there, you'll see the iceberg where the abortion is at the top. Everyone sees it. We all know it's there. And it is an important life issue to deal with. I never want to, say that we should always be working with abortion, but there are other issues that we don't want to forget. I heard human trafficking, I heard end of life, and our congregation needs to understand that that's important as well, and sharing the value of life at those ages. Okay, anything else on that? Okay, Michele.
So I just want to mention, as for us being a new in-training life team, our pastor, we meet with him every month, and what he would like to do is he's going to be doing a funeral planning event at church. So he's asked our team to do some things with end of life. And then the other one that we're going to do this year is we're going to do the Minnesota March for Life. So being new, we're just set, just 2 events that we're hoping to do by the end of the year.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Just since we're all talking about end of life, as Pastor Salome said, we're all getting there. I just want to tell you that if you'd like to pick up one of these, I know Gretchen had some in the displays back there. This is something we developed with the help of Chrissy Gillette, who came to speak at our congregation. It's called Going Gracefully and Faithfully. She gave us many different aids that are in here to help people sort of plan for some of the things that are happening in the end of life. And since then, there's been more wonderful LFL resources that we've added to this, as well as some from the Synod. And if you'd like to pick up one of these just as a sample and then maybe take it home and reproduce it yourself, we'd love to give you one of these. Just contact me later.
Okay. And that brings up a point. Thank you when you said Chrissy Gillette was here, who is our director of Word of Hope Ministry. We have a program called Spotlight on Life. I'm just going to mention it. Pastor Solomink is the person that, if you're interested in a staff person coming to your church to speak, give him a call and he will help to arrange that and make it very affordable. The other thing you can do is we have a project called the Playbook, and that's out on our table as well, and I think you have it in your packet, where the program's all put together for you and you can do it yourself. So if you have any questions about any of those, you stop at our table over there. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to ask what your greatest joys are in serving on your life teams. Okay, where haven't we? Okay, Dr. Grad, would you help us there?
My greatest joy is the team. I have an amazing team. They're very active. I can call on them for help, and I told them I was going to brag on them, and I'm doing that. And they're just wonderful, wonderful. They all have different gifts, and the Advent Giving Tree was not my idea. It was one of our team members. The End of Life series was one of our team members' ideas. So they're contributing very actively. You talk about getting old, and we talk about training our successors, and we're definitely working on that. Some of my people that are helping me are older than me, but there's one man individual in particular who's younger, and I've been working with him quite a bit. And so, again, being able to train our successors and just the joy of being able to serve. Yeah. This is such an important area, and we ultimately proclaim Christ, through proclaiming the sanctity of life, and just the joy of being able to serve, to teach, to encourage.
Great. Liz, you want to share with that?
Well, you saw my team, and I love them. We couldn't do anything without them, right? I mean, they're absolutely great. So, because I'm looking around, I can see them in the back. So, yeah. And you saw the concert last night, right?
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that was your greatest project, but you have some pretty great ones in addition to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
terrific.
I'd be hard pressed to pick one favorite one. So,
okay,
yeah,
good.
Yeah, we love them all. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, working with our churches, one of the main reasons for a life team is to assist your pastor. Because if you don't have the lay people involved in your congregation, the burden of life ministry is totally on the pastor. So we tell our life teams in our training that it's really important that you establish that relationship, and that, number one, he needs to be the one that supports it and agrees with it and is there for you as well. My next question is, how do you interact with your pastor? How often does that take place? You want to start? No?
Not as often as I'd like, I'll have to admit.
Okay.
Some of that has to do with taking over the president of Missouri and what that all entails.
Yeah.
I regularly email them when I receive information from Lutherans for Life. I send that to them right away, as well as other people. There's a bulletin every week, and there's usually something in there. If it's pressing, I usually call them. For example, those of you from Missouri, you know that there's an amendment on the ballot this year that is going to remove every protective law that is in place right now and establish abortion in the Constitution, just like the other, 10, 11 states that have had that same thing. So right now, I'm working with them, try to get that moving, and I believe this Sunday they're using Pastor Hagan, our district president, sent out a letter with an insert. So as much as possible, try to keep in touch with them.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
especially when it comes to Life Sunday, of course, but
Yes.
hopefully year-round as well.
Okay. Yeah, Deb, go ahead.
Yes, well, our pastor is very new. He's sitting right over there, so I got to be careful what I say. But we learned early on that he was definitely for life. And as you can tell from his devotion and that he had earlier and all the participation he's had, he's definitely there for us and everything. And we want to be there for him. What we did was a suggestion that came up on, I think, one of the Directions magazines or whatever, was to give your pastor some resources. And there was a listing from LFL of the items that they would suggest that you give to your pastor to help him in his, work for life. And so our team put together, we're a big resources. We love LFL resources.
No, that's Deb. Deb loves that, and she keeps all of them. So for our team, trust me.
We have 2 big binders. We purchase one of every single item that there is out there so that we have them in hand such that we can just refer to them at any time. And then we know, we get inspired by looking at them and all the wonderful things that Michele Bauman's coming up with and everything. So we took a lot of those items and gave them to Pastor with his own binder. And then another thing was the Directions magazine is wonderful with a new Bible study in it each, 2-month period of time. And so I always take that out, copy that, and add that to his binder. So and of course, I'm the secretary, he's the pastor. We have a lot of communication about life, so.
Yeah, but Pastor's also on he's been, how many times have you been? 3 meetings or 2? Yeah. So he's on our email list that we've got. So, he sees all the emails go out. He's in our meetings. He gets our meeting notes, all of that. So he's key, right? So.
Yeah, and there isn't any rule as to whether the pastor has to be at all your meetings.
No, he does with us. He has to be there, so.
Oh. Okay, well, don't let me get in the middle of that. But, you just have to be sure you keep him informed. That's the important thing. Yes, go ahead.
So our pastor is an integral part of the team. As I mentioned to you before, he's the one that got me started in developing a Lutherans for Life team. He comes to most of our meetings. He's real busy. He's also vice president. He's our regional vice president in the English district, so he travels some as well. But he's an integral member of our team. And I will tell you, he'll be surprised if he heard me say this, but he does most of the work. Why do I say that? Every Sunday is Life Sunday. The divine service, the hymnody, the liturgy, the pericopes, every week, barring none, for 1-year series, 3-year series, I don't care, is a profound apologetic for the sanctity of life. His sermon is a profound apologetic for the sanctity of life, and he specifically brings up sanctity of life at least once every month. But if you unpack any of his sermons, you get teaching on the sanctity of life from fertilization to forever. So everything we do is from the gifts that we receive, the gifts of forgiveness, life, and salvation that we receive in the divine service. We then take on our life team and bring out to our congregation, to our fellow members of the congregation, and to the community. The post-communion collect. We give thanks to you, Almighty God, that you've refreshed us through the salutary gift. Use it in faith toward you and perfect love toward one another. We say that every time we come out of the divine service. So he does most of the work. He's an integral member. I don't sneeze without asking him first. I do not have a life ministry. It is not my ministry. I am helping him. We are all helping him with his ministry. So we're extensions of him. And I think we need to keep that in mind. And even if you've not talked to your pastor, remember, just by fact that he's presiding at the divine service, he's doing most of the work, most of the sanctity of life work in the congregation anyways. And
that is a blessing to have the life issues, the life ministry mentioned in the worship, in the prayers, with the readings, etc.
But even if it's not specifically mentioned, it's there.
Right.
If you sit and think about it, you don't have to. It's not that hard to unpack it and find it there.
Right. So Michele, your life team hasn't even started functioning. You're still in training, but you have met with your pastor. So you mentioned it. So what is the plan? Did he give you an idea what he wanted you to do as you
Yeah,
developed
so when
it?
we meet with our pastor, then we meet with him monthly. And then we also have what's called Realm. It's our communication within our church. It's kind of like a Facebook page for the church. I don't know if you've heard of the Realm system. So he's on our team on as far as that way as well. And he's looking for communications for us. And last year on Life Sunday, our pastor spoke from fertilization till forever. And he's going to do that again this year. And then he also spoke about, he said, I'm sure there's at least one of you in our congregation who's probably had an abortion, and you've kept that inside all these years. And he says, take it to the cross and be forgiven. So he talks about all areas of the different life topics. I really appreciate that when he's up there, he's not afraid to speak out, in love and truth. So it's really been a blessing for me working. And as Liz mentioned earlier about herself, my sister at 19 was a teenage mom. My mom was taking her back to college when she was her sophomore year in college. And on the way to college, she told my mom she was 5.5 months pregnant. We're so thankful she chose life at that time. Thomas is 32 years old. He's my not my grandson. He's my godchild. And my sister got married 7 years ago. And instead of my dad walking her down the aisle, Thomas did. So that's where my For Life ministry in our own families. And as we mentioned back then, my sister's pregnancy was a secret. And she wasn't hugged and loved. Where we need to look, and with this, our new program with that Pastor Solomonic mentioned is going to be so wonderful, because in the churches, we need to love on those young women.
And I thought about that, Michele, when I was thinking about my mom and dad when he mentioned that, because I didn't know that I was an unplanned pregnancy until I was like 13 or 14, right? I mean, I was doing a class project. I asked for my birth certificate for their wedding certificate. I'm like, hey, this doesn't equal up, right? So I looked at their marriage, and it said January 12th, 1960, and my birth date is May 19th, 1960, and I said, what's up with this? So, yeah, it was, yeah. But my mom being Brazilian, she was always very advantageous, She used to say, and she used to speak with an accent, so I'm sorry, but she used to say, she goes, this is a blessing. You are alive because you are here. God wants you here. And I don't think I realized that until my grandmother was dying. She was in the hospital. She was dying. This is my dad's mom, who was very close to my mom, right? So, but my mom couldn't be there while she was passing away. I went during the day. I was 8 months pregnant with my first daughter. And so I would go every morning, because I was on maternity leave for my job. I would go every morning, sit with my grandmother. And one day I fell asleep. I was holding her hand, and Natalie, who was at that point I was 8 months pregnant, started kicking, just violently kicking. I jumped up. My grandmother starts coughing because she was dying from pneumonia. I pressed the button immediately, right? And the kicking won't stop. The nurse runs in, and she goes, this is it. It's time. She's going now. And my grandmother did pass away. The minute she passed away, the kicking stopped. Like the same minute. Yeah. And I told when my mom finally got to the hospital, and I told her what happened, and she goes, this is it. This is why you're here. She goes, you were never unplanned. God knew that you were planned. She goes, we just didn't know. So
There you go.
yeah.
So most everyone has some sort of a life connection that gives you some motivation for wanting to be on a life team.
But I am concerned about the 7 million that are not here, right? My mom spent 4 months without my dad, and during that time, she had friends say, you need to go get an abortion. And she did end up going one time and then kind of chickened out. Mm-hmm. But yep. Yeah, but I mean, that pressure goes on every day, so.
Wonderful, okay. Okay, well, let's move on then. Those are great answers. And by the way, Deb mentioned directions. If you're not familiar with you probably all know what Life Date is. It's our quarterly newsletter magazine that comes out, but we also have Directions, which is a bi-monthly newsletter. And within this last year, a lot of changes have been made, and if you don't get it, we can certainly send it to you, either email or in the mail, but it's also online on our Lutherans for Life website on the Frontline tab. You'll find Directions. What we did that was also, Deb mentioned a Bible study. We also have projects that we've been posting. We've been interviewing people in the field with our life teams, our life advocates, and our life chapters. And by the way, we have about 85 life chapters, about the same number of life teams out there, and we have about 39 life advocates, and I'll explain what that is in a little bit. But look for new projects. The things that we're hearing today, we're trying to get those published. We put 2 or 3 new ones out every bi-monthly Directions. So let's go on. I want to know if you see what you see as some of the equipping and spiritual benefits that your life team brings to your congregation. Would you like to answer that, Mike? Is that...
I guess that's the time we make available things, and that's what we're about. Our mission statement was to help the pastors and to provide opportunities for the congregation to participate. So people did join us when we went to the nursing home. People do help out with the Monarch event and come and buy, which is, of course, the main thing. I forgot about the fact that we did once have a funeral planning seminar, which somebody else took over because he's a financial planner with Lutheran Foundations, so they kind of took that over, but at least we got that going. What was the question?
What are the equipping and spiritual benefits you think your team brings to your congregation?
Well, that would be the equipping. The spiritual side, I think, is more just for our life team itself.
Okay.
At least at this point. We would like to do more in the future, and hopefully we will.
Okay. Deb, go ahead.
Yeah. I think it just helps our congregation to sort of think outside of themselves. In this day and age, there's so many things you can do for yourself, especially in our metropolitan area here. You can take your kids to this and that theater and everything, and people get so busy. But it really helps them to start thinking outside of their own needs or fun or whatever. And I do think, too, that it gives them opportunities that they might not otherwise think of. We have so many wonderful... Our church is filled with a lot of givers. They love to give, but they don't always know, what can I do in order to give to other people? And we just give them all sorts of little opportunities for this or that, and they just jump right on board. And I had this one lady come in one time, and she says, "Thank you for doing that particular project, for thinking of that particular type of person." I think it was our caregiver program. And I just think it gives them a lot of opportunity.
Okay. You want to share something?
Yeah, I think pretty much like everybody else said, I think our presence there helps people connect the dots. There's so much information that they're hearing, but may not be necessarily making the connection. So I think there's that. Mm-hmm. I'll be there's Roni again talking about a life issue, in a Bible study or whatever. I'll bring something like that up. But also just information, giving people opportunities. We help organize the participation in the local March for Life and the state March for Life, and serve in events like with our Pregnancy Care Center and things like that. So I think
that's the essence of the life team, is that everybody in the congregation can't belong to the life team, but you can't also do all the work. So your job then is to organize the events and engage the congregation.
One thing, it's important to raise awareness. Do not assume that everyone in the pew at your congregation is pro-life. I actually found a Pew Research study that came out about 10 years ago. Now, this was a telephone survey, so take that for what it's worth. They were not in a narthex interviewing people. They were calling people, asking them their religious affiliation, how often they go to church, and what's their attitude on life issues. And I think it was in the high 30s% of people that identified themselves as LCMS Lutherans, and I know we have other church bodies here, and I didn't look up NALC and Free Lutheran churches and all of that, so just speaking for the LCMS here, but high 30s, I think 36 to 38% of people who identified themselves as LCMS Lutherans who are sitting in the pew, who are coming to church at least once a week, consider themselves to be pro-choice. And this is LCMS. We're a whole church body. We have a life ministry. We've got a very strong pro-life push coming out of St. Louis. And anyways, so we need to give a strong apologetic to the sanctity of life, even within our own congregations. And again, I can't hold you to the 36% because, again, there are problems with how the study was done. There are concerns, but it's the best data we have. And I can tell you that in real life, I gave a stack of pamphlets to one of our circuit pastors about this Proposition 139, get it, 139, pro-abortion proposition. How is that spitting in the face of, Psalm 139. But anyways, I gave a stack of 139 pamphlets, information to him, and he looked at me very sorrowfully and said, half my members are pro-choice. And I'm like, well, you can plant and water, God will give the growth, that type of thing. But we've got to be reaching out to our own congregations as well.
Yep. By the same token, there's so much need to share the message of life that CareNet did that study a few years ago that said that 70% of women they interviewed that have had an abortion said they were connected with a Christian church and they went to church at least once a month. And so we know that our people are even in our pews and yet a very small percentage of them spoke to their pastor about it or anyone else, and they live with this guilt and need to know that there is that forgiveness there for them. Let's go on then to one more question here, and then we'll summarize. What advice do you want to give to new life volunteers, either life team, life chapter, whatever it may be, that you've experienced in a starting up environment?
It can be very chaotic. Make sure you contact everybody in your congregation, and what I mean by that is, the board of stewardship, the church council, things like that. You want to make sure that you're always communicating and reaching out to them. So, and be very clear about what you're doing and when you're doing it. So, yeah.
I see you're shaking your head. Yes, you have something you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. Have a presence at your council meetings. Our council meetings are open to any member of the congregation. And I'm a member of the council because right now I have the education portfolio, but even when that goes away, I'll still be attending meetings and reporting back on our life team stuff, and also what's happening at the Lutherans for Life and in the English district on the life ministry there as well. The other thing I suggest, and this is given in the training session when you are training to become a life team member and a life team leader, find an area of focus. You can do a lot of nothing or a lot of something. Yeah. And so we have early life, beginning of life, and end of life, and we're very focused on those too, but there's so many issues in between. Yeah. And find a focus and really stick to it. I think that's probably the best bit of advice that I have. And finally, just do it.
Be consistent. Yes.
I think it's important to assess your congregation. Our congregation, we have a school, so obviously we're wanting to talk with young people about and develop those thoughts in their minds at a young age already. We also have practically running all the time about 12 people who are in their 90s. So when you find out what's going on in your church and the needs there and the life issues, then those are the where you really want to focus your work, right? I mean, we can do things for the community as well, but we want to have our congregations behind us. And so if we're already providing services or things for them, then they're going to, be benefited by that. The other thing is check out your RSOs in your area, recognized service organizations for us, it's the LCMS. I looked that up, and one of our exhibitors, which I found out just a couple months ago, is Lutheran Family and Children's Services in our area. So I did contact them, and I think we're going to start speaking with them and seeing how we might service them. Because, of course, there's a lot of organizations out there that that you'd love to support, but it's wonderful when you can support your own. First and foremost, we need to not forget our own. And there's Marilyn right there, LFCS. She loved what I just said, didn't you? So I think that's really important. And it's hard to sometimes vet some of them that aren't, basically, our Lutheran Church Missouri Synod has vetted certain organizations. We know that they're going to be on the same page as we are as far as life issues are concerned. So that's why it's nice to use that listing. I also recommended, I think what has made our growth, we've got 10 people on our team now. We started with about 5, and none of them did we have to go out and try to find. They came to us. And I think it was because of the fact, and we just started out with small little projects. I mean, the first thing we did, even before we even were officially a team, we were collecting diapers for Advice and Aid. Simple stuff. They gave us, and it wasn't just diapers, I guess. They gave us a shopping list. But just simple things that you can do, and I'm going to recommend another resource of the LFL, and that's this little book, How You Can Speak. If you haven't gotten that, please do get that and give one to every single member on your life team. There are, I don't know how many ideas there are in this little book. And it's just fabulous. But you can get started with a few little things and you got to hit a lot of different people's ideas of what would I want to do if I were part of the team. But they could see us doing things. And a lot of times people think, oh, you just get together for meetings and you talk. We are attracting people because they want to be part of the action. And so that's been, I think, one good hint there. And I think that might be all I was going. Oh, I just want to share a quick story. One of the little things that we did, and I guess it's not so little necessarily, but we have, do you mind if I give this suggestion?
Go ahead.
It's sort of not exactly that, but it's an idea about caregivers. We always think about people who get sick. How can we help them? But the people that are really hurting sometimes as well are the caregivers. I was a caregiver for my mom for about 5 months. She moved here from Michigan, and she had glioblastoma brain cancer. And if it have been for my other sister, she carried all the finances, I dealt with all the physical things, and she was in my home. And I have a little bit of sense, and I was happy to do this for my mom. I loved her dearly, and she was an easy patient and everything. But she needed our help, and it was a lot of work. And we have an organization, that's what, again, just keep your eyes out in your congregation. We have a Bible study on Wednesday mornings, and it's almost all ladies who are caregivers for their husbands. And so there's a need there, and one of those ideas, that's how we came up with the ideas. It was in this little book. And we gave them a caregiver basket filled with Kind bars, cozy socks, tea. There's umpteen things you can put in a little basket. just to say we're thinking of you. To take that to a person, drop that off for them, you should see the look in their eyes. And that goes back to that one question about what joy you've experienced through this. Those people, whether it's men or women, and I think, Ross, we helped your family out when you went through the loss of Barbara. And you take that package to them, and the tears just roll down their eyes because they say, you're thinking of me. You remember me, not only my loved one that I'm caring for. And then we're trying to develop a little past that. Don't just do it once, like we remember you once and now we're forgetting about you. You know, our project is over. You know, so what can we do down the road to, again, say, we haven't forgotten you. We know for some of them it's a lifelong journey almost until their loved one passes. So.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I think that one of the key elements of a new team starting out is try not to be discouraged. We say to our new life teams, if you can't come up with ideas, spend your meeting time in prayer. There's many things to pray about in the life arena. We have a life chapter out 20 miles west of the Twin Cities that did an event. They were going to do a big event. They did it in January of one year, which isn't the best time to do events in Minnesota. But they had a little snow that day. But they had 12 people show up, and we brought people from Lutherans for Life, and they felt so bad. They thought we'll never do this again, and we said no. Don't take that approach. But take a look at how you did this, evaluate the things that you did, and the very next year, they repeated that event with the same speakers. Everything was the same. The only difference was they advertised it in the district website. 125 people showed up. Now, that was a tremendous life event, and so the point is, never give up. Go to the Lord, ask for help, and He will show the way. So we're about done here, but I'm going to give the panel one more opportunity to kind of summarize. But before I do that, I just wanted to tell you that I mentioned that we have different ways that you can serve in the field. We have this pamphlet called Volunteer Relations, which is our group. We have 3 different ways that you can do life ministry in your congregation. One, of course, which is the most popular that we've been doing a lot of, is our life team, which everyone here is engaged with. And we have a full life team training program that we very recently in August, converted to be online. What a difference that has made. And then you can also be a life chapter, which is an independent 501c3 organization with anywhere from 1 to multiple congregations. We have churches. We have a church in a life chapter in Montana that serves like 8. We have different numbers that they serve, but they're outside of the church, working as Lutherans together from different congregations. A life advocate is one person, and that's the theme of that program. It only takes one. And if you go to our website under the Frontline tab again, you can see Life Advocate, and there's a video that tells you how just one person can do a lot of things. And all you have to do is to keep the message of life that we provide at Lutherans for Life to you in your bulletins, your newsletters and things, so your congregation keeps informed. So I'm going to ask Michele quickly. Michele had a lot to do with converting our life training to be online. And so she's gotten some feedback from that. You want to share any of that with them?
And I just wanted, those of you who haven't been at the table, Deb mentioned I have plenty of these at the resource table back there, so make sure you get a copy of that one. And we also have a flyer on our new online training back there. If you're already a certified life team leader, you've already paid for the toolkit, just send myself or Virginia an email and we will give you a free code to go into the training session. There's only a charge for the life team leader one, which is tool 2. And then also we brought the 9 facets of a healthy life ministry. There's some printed copies of this and they're also available on our website as well.
And they're in the training too, so
And
it's
they're in
just
the
kind of a
training.
repeat.
Yeah.
And so the Life Team Toolkit is $25 for the Life Team Leader, and the team members are all free. You can add as many as you want after that initial cost. So, but
So
tell about some of the feedback.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of the feedback from a couple of the ones who have gone through the online training. And this is from a Life Team Leader in Indiana. And he says, I found the online training very well done, detailed, and very complete. I found the leadership training very helpful with respect to the strong Bible study emphasis on Jesus. And then a comment from our Life Team Leader. Our Life Team Leader, her name is Carrie, and she also was a teenage mom. We had our first informational meeting this week, and like Virginia said, we just stopped and prayed because we had people sign up at our mission fair, but then for our first meeting, we only had one person. And we said, one person. We start the meeting, we had 2 more join us. So we all shared our things, and we always open and close with prayer. So this is Carrie, our Life Team Leaders, and this is her comments from after doing the online training. The training is invaluable. When I became the new LFL team leader at Messiah, I was overwhelmed. The online training gave me so much confidence and clarity. I appreciated the wonderfully and constructed Bible study and ongoing guidelines for conversations throughout the life of our life team. And I went through the online training as well. It's very easy, user-friendly, and then all the materials on there as well. You can still, those of you who have the old manual, you can print those all from in there. You can also download the videos throughout the training as well.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we're down to 2 minutes, and I promised them more time than that. But does anyone have something that you really think is so important you want to share it before we leave? Yes.
Just one thing real quick. I encourage life teams to be involved in the pro-life efforts in the community as well. You know, be at the table at coalitions, you know, with other groups.
Yes.
President Harrison has set such a great example for the LCMS in that regard. But if you're able to, you know, I go to a Northwest Tucson coalition when I can. I go to the Greater Tucson Coalition. I've worked with the Arizona Life Coalition. So try to get involved at those efforts as well and get us a place at the table.
Yeah, Mike has a question. How long does the training take? And the Life Team Leader training, if you sit down in one session and go through it, you probably do it in about 3 hours. The beauty of the online is that you can start and stop when you need to. Then it's probably going to take you more than 3 hours because you have to kind of regroup. And that would be the same for the team member training. You have the option in team member of doing it as a group, which is a great way to do it because then you can have discussion. Or people can do it independently in their home. It works either way. We certify the teams once we ask, there is a test at the end. We ask the team leader to share their test, but they can't go wrong because the session tells them if they've got wrong answers. And then they can find the right answers. It's right there. So we can tell when they've completed it, and we'll know what the grade is. And that team members is the honor system within your team itself, so we don't grade those. Once we consider you certified, we send you a certification, and we send, Pastor Solomon wrote a wonderful litany that we send to the life team leader to give to their pastor. And we ask the pastor to, in a worship service, to share the certification with the congregation and bring the people up, much like Stephen's ministry does that, and they become an official life team member of the congregation. And the reason is to engage the congregation so they know a lot of things. They know that you're trained, you can be trusted, you're working with the pastor. There's just a lot of reasons to do that. Now I use the 2 minutes. So stop by the table if you have any more questions about that. We'd love to get more people engaged in this. Thank you all for serving if you appreciate this sharing.